Yeah, so good evening to you and good to see you here on Friday evening. I know a lot of people have commitments on Friday evenings. I'm Jeffrey. I'm from my surname is Say Art Talk. I'm from LaSalle College of the Arts. Been there 22 years. So currently I'm heading a master's program in Asian art histories. Okay, maybe towards the end of the talk I can kind of give you some information on that. Right? Do a bit of marketing of the program. But anyway, we are here this evening, I suppose, for a very serious question. Right? I don't know whether you call it serious question, but it's also playful in some ways. Right? Okay, what is art? Okay, and what is it for? So there's, in fact, I'm happy to be back here to start another series of talks. In fact, I started way back in 2013. For maybe, I think most of you, you don't remember, but, and I'm going to have another, maybe this year, another four talks, right? Maybe 4 to 5 talks this year. And 1 or 2 will have, will coincide or will kind of relate to the bicentennial. Okay, I'm already thinking of one that is something like 200 years of Singapore art, right? So that's in the pipeline. Okay, so I hope to, but for the others I've not really firmed up. Right? But so keep a lookout, right, for the other talks that are happening this year. Okay, right, as I said, this question, what is art? Okay, so there are 2 parts to my talk. What is art? And what is it for? And so I'm going to start, right? I mean, sometimes, I suppose all of you have some idea of what art is. Okay, maybe sometimes it's difficult to articulate it, right? It's difficult to define. Okay, maybe I can start by asking you. I'm throwing out, right, back to your court. What is art? Okay, can anyone tell me, right, in your own words? Okay, don't have to be intellectual or right, politically correct, right? Okay, any words that come into your mind, right? Yeah, just say it. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be a sentence. So what is art? Like I have some headphones over me. Okay, have you all taught anyone? Yeah. Yes, it's a expression. Yes, very good. Yeah. You want to add on or? Expression. Yes. Expression. Mm-hmm. Probably expression of the kind. Right. For example. Individuals. Okay. Right. How about communication? Sorry? Communication. Communication. Very good. Yes. I want to say something. Yes. I want to share my personal opinion. Right. Good. We already have 2 responses. One is art is an expression. Very good. In fact, later on I'm going to talk about, one of the definitions of art is that art is an expression. It's an expression of ideas, emotions, feelings, etc. And right, Robina, you said it that art is a communication. Right? So it's because you need an audience as well, right? In order for something to be defined as art. Okay, so art cannot exist in a vacuum. Right, you need an audience. Okay, any more kind of yes, please. Free form. Okay. Sure. Yes. Yes. Definitely. I mean, you have a keyword there, creativity, and free form, right? Right. The freedom as well to create. Okay, what you want. Okay, but creativity is often cited as one of the criteria. Okay, for art. Any more? Maybe 1 or 2 more? You are going very good so far, No? Okay. Whoops. Oh dear. Okay, I have to. Where is the. I need to check. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. I shouldn't be moving around. Okay, in the meantime, yeah, anyone has any other views about what art is? Okay, but you know, you said it correctly in your own way, what art is about. But why is it that the definition of art still eludes us today? Right? Why are people still debating about what art is about? In fact, it's not resolved. In fact, even more people are discussing what is art. Because in contemporary art, more and more kind of works are being done. Okay, that really push the boundaries of what art is. Okay, I'm sure you've been to a gallery, and I'm sure you have asked this question: is that art? Right? And this is, I suppose, more so in contemporary art. Okay, because you probably come across a work that you have never seen, and that you don't think is art. Okay, so I think this question about what art is about, right, is becoming even more more debatable these days. But it's an age-old question, right? Age-old question has not really been really resolved. And I don't think we have a definite answer for it. Okay, and I think that's what makes art exciting. Okay, is that and that's what makes a discourse, in a sense, of what art is about. I want to start by, if you look at a work, I mean, it's a cartoon, okay, but you may very well come across such a work. Okay, it's a hot dog stand, and the caption says, we are telling everyone it's an artwork, but actually we are subletting the stand to make ends meet. Right? But in reality, as I said, you may not come across a hot dog stand, but you may just come across another work, right? That you think it's not art, but it's actually art. This was 2 years back. I'm sure you have come across this news. Okay, this was at a museum, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember which museum. Okay. Anyway, there are two boys, two teenagers. Okay, one 16, one 17 years old. So they are teenagers. So they were questioning the merits of the works in the museum. They were probably questioning, is this art? Right? You call this art. Right? So what they did was that they decided to do a little prank. So one of them decided to take out his specs, leave it on the floor. Okay, and in a short time, crowd began to form around the work, and people began to take pictures. Okay? In fact, they began to think that it's an actual work of art. Now, why do you think they believe that it's a work of art? Because it's in a museum. And if you look at the top description, right, I got it from a particular source. It says the work seemed to hit a chord with the public, striking in its simplicity, yet probably a challenging commentary on the limits of individual perception. I mean, a description like that, right, is you can probably find it as a caption in some museums or gallery, or even in an exhibition catalog, right? But the fact is that this is a prank, and people believe that it's art. Okay, and one of the teenagers, right, that's what he wrote. He says, I can agree that modern art can be a joke sometimes, but art is a way to express our own creativity. And he says, I see it as a pleasure for open-minded people and imaginative minds. Okay, so I suppose works like this, sometimes challenge, right, the notion or the definition of what art is about. And there are many examples, right, throughout history. Okay, starting with this famous work called Bird in Space by Constantine Brancusi. And the story goes that in about the 1920s, right, maybe about, there was this photographer called Edward Stuyton. He's an American. And he just purchased this work from the artist and wanted to bring it back to he brought it back to the US. Okay, and at that time in the US, right, works of art were exempted from customs duties or taxes. Okay, but when the custom officer saw that, he said, and when Edward Stuyton told him that this is an artwork, he refused to believe it. Right? To him, it looks like a piece of manufactured metal. Right? So after, I suppose, some argument, Edward Stuyton had to pay custom duties to the amount of $600 US. And it was taxed under this category: kitchen utensils and hospital supplies. But it did not stop there, right? They went to court in 1927, so it became a court case. And Edward Stuyton has his own supporters. Right? He was backed by some wealthy people. They went to court, and in court they were debating, right? Of course, you have the other party as well, and they were debating. What were they debating about? The birdness of this work, right? Because the word, the title is Bird in Space. Okay, the birdness, right? Can this become a bird just by leaving it so? Okay, and then the other I suppose he's the defendant, right? And right, I suppose the prosecution will say, right, okay, where is the tail? Where are the feathers? Right? So they were questioning, yeah. Do you recognize as a bird, anyone? Okay, but they made a very good point, right? The defendants and some of their supporters. Okay? They look at the shape, the form of this sculpture. Okay? If you look at the upward movement, right? So the verticality of this sculpture, the spatial freedom of it, okay, the streamlined form, okay, all these are suggestive of flight, a bird in flight. Huh? Oh, he has one work, right, of a fish that doesn't look like a fish. Okay, because Brancusi is a sculptor who reduced everything to its essentials, right? Because he wanted to capture the spirit of the thing. Okay, so he's really the first, you can call him the first abstract sculptor in history, Brancusi. Okay. So, who won in the end? Right, thankfully for us and for art, right, he won the case and he got back his money. Right. I mean, it's not the first court case. I mean, the first case where artists had to go to court to defend what they did. How about this? Mark Wallinger. Right, he's a British artist, and he's an interesting artist. His work is full of wit, and many of his works also deal with racehorses. Okay, was one of his favorite subjects, and he displayed this work, right, in I believe in a gallery, and he calls it a real work of art. Now, it's not a sculpture, it's a real horse. Okay, it's a racehorse that has been retired. Okay. So I can see some of the faces, you think that, whether this can be a work of art. And, later on we'll come to this, I'll tell you briefly later on about, I suppose when, this work, it was displayed in a gallery, right? And by virtue of that, it makes this work a work of art. Okay, it's what you call the institutional context, the context in which the work was displayed. And also, I think by naming it a real of art, and by advertising its existence, okay, Mark Wallinger is trying to challenge the existing or the prevailing definition of what art is. Okay, so I suppose Mark Wallinger here is trying to take on the role of a philosopher. Okay, so certain artists as well, artists don't only make things or, right, and beautiful objects. Okay, but often they also take on the role of philosopher. Right, they would like to question, prevailing notions of art. And that is what Mark Wallinger is trying to do. Right? What he's trying to do here, he approaches the condition of a philosopher. Okay? So it's not really a metaphor as such, right? It's a real work of art. Right? I'm sure you have, some of you have seen this work or have heard of Tracey Emin. Okay, she's a UK artist. And in the 80s, she belonged to this group of artists called the Young British Artists, right? Together with Damien Hirst, who's the most famous in that group, right? The Chapman brothers, and a few others. Okay, and this is the work that got her shortlisted, in fact, for the Turner Prize. The Turner Prize is the most prestigious art prize in Britain. Imagine, that's her bed. Okay, the bed she slept in and, did, many other things on it. And she submitted this as a kind of an installation work. Right? And it got shortlisted for the Turner Prize. And later, this advertising mogul called Charles Saatchi, right, purchased this work, I believe, for £150,000. And, so he not only kind of submitted a bid, but all the kind of detritus, the rubbish that came with it. Right? If you look down, right, below the bid, there are things like vodka bottles, cigarette butts, salt makers, condoms. Right? Now, if you were to know Tracey Emin's work, okay, her work is often confessional, autobiographical. Right? She airs a dirty laundry, okay, for people to, right, to see. And this work, you can say, is about her life, or a certain period in her life, when when she broke up with a boyfriend. There was some relationship issue and they broke up, and she spent some time in bed, right, depressed. So what I'm saying is that, do you call this bed? This is someone's bed. Okay, but it's submitted and accepted as a work of art. Okay, think about it. And as I said, Charles Saatchi bought it for £150,000 in I think about 5 years ago. Right? It was sold for 5.3 million. I suppose it's to you, right? You might be asking yourself now, right? Wow, this type of work can even sell for 5 million. Okay, of course that's a separate issue altogether. Right? I know there are artists here, and sometimes you're wondering, right? Where's the skill involved in making that work? It's what you call a ready-made work. Right, a work involving found objects. Right, that's a bit, and all the rubbish in it. Really, not much skill involved. Okay? Maybe there's a concept behind it, but that's about it. I suppose you can debate all we want. Right? But as I said, the contemporary art market is a topic for some other day, really. Right? How what determines the price of the work. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. And I don't know whether you recall some years back. Okay, there's this, and you could have encountered one of her works as well. Okay, where she used stickers. All right, and she She left the stickers, for example, on the traffic lights. Okay, and they would have phrases like anyhow press police catch. Okay, so this is Samantha Lowe. Okay, and she's what you call a street artist. So street artists, in America, you have street artists like Keith Haring, and people like that, right? Meaning to say they go on the street, okay, and they kind of do their work there in the street, and sometimes they'll just disappear. So do you consider such work street art, or sometimes you call it graffiti, right? So if you use aerosol spray can, okay, and you write some words, or that's graffiti. Right? Do you consider this to be art or vandalism? Okay, so that's the big question that people still have. Right? Is such an art or vandalism? Okay, and she also wrote. My grandfather wrote. You can see right on the left picture, and that actually did her in. Okay, because she did it just opposite the ministry of a ministry building. So she was caught in the end, and she had to serve. She wasn't jailed. She was charged under mischief. Okay, she had to do 240 hours of community work. But today she has become quite well known because of this. Okay, and she has in fact been commissioned to do a number of projects here in Singapore as well as overseas. Okay, but the problem is this, that she cannot be a practicing street artist anymore. Okay, because the whole idea of a street artist is to go out there, do your business, and disappear. Right? That's really what you call a true street artist. Right? But of course in Singapore it's very difficult to do that. Right? You'll be caught after a while and charged. So it's difficult. Now, I suppose when I asked you for a definition earlier, I think no one mentioned that, well, art is something created by a human being. Now, do you all agree that art is something that's only the prerogative of a human being? And the question is this, that can an animal or can a non-human being also create art? Okay, before you answer that question or attempt to answer, it's something for you to think about. You don't have to really answer the question. The bowerbird. Okay, the bowerbird has very strange courtship rituals. To attract its mate, right, the male bowerbird, okay, what they will do is that they will collect sticks and very brightly colored objects. Now these objects can be man-made or nature. Okay, so they collect all this and they put them together, right, very carefully, right, to make it very attractive, and to construct a bower. A bower is a dwelling place, like a nest, I suppose, right? Not really a nest, but a dwelling place. And the fascinating thing is this: no two bowers are alike. It's the same with artists. Okay, when they create a work, I suppose no two works are in a sense alike. Right? So here you have an artist in nature, the bower. So is a bower a work of art? That's something to think about. Right? Okay, before going to that okay, so coming again, this argument about whether art making is the prerogative of humans. Right? We have examples of chimpanzees, notably chimpanzees, okay, and also elephants, right, who actually painted. Okay, so this is a retired circus chimpanzee. Okay, and he's called the Cezanne of simians. Simians are a chimpanzee species, and they say that he uses broad
bold strokes to create artwork. Right? But he's not the first. Okay, there's a famous chimpanzee called Congo in the 1950s, and his work actually sold for $26,000 at an auction in 2005. Okay, and we have examples of works by elephants and chimps being sold at auctions. People actually buy them. So this is something to think about. Okay, right? Whether art can also be created by non-human beings. And talking about non-human beings, okay, this was just hot news just a month ago, okay, or a couple of months ago, right? The first ultra realistic robot artist, and it's been given a name called Aida, A-I-D-A. Right? And Aida, it seems, she's been given a human face and all that here. So when fully made up, right, she's able to draw your portrait, okay, using artificial intelligence. Right? So are works created by AI, artificial intelligence, and robots considered art? Anyone has any opinion here as to what do you think? Okay, so there are more and more things developing or being made that challenges our existing definition of what art is. So what is art really? Okay, I'm just giving two definitions here. Okay, one is from the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. I suppose some of these definitions are outdated. I suppose even the dictionaries need to update their definitions. So for Oxford dictionary, it says the expression, right? We have this quote there who said expression, right? Art is an expression. So it's expression of human creative talent. So I underline the word human. Okay, but as you have seen, art can also be created, right, by nature, by animals, okay, or even by AI. And it says especially in a visual form. Does it have to be visual? Not necessarily so. Okay, today artists have made works involving text, just text, sound. Okay, we have a category today called sound art. And then the Encyclopedia Britannica, right, defines art as a visual object or experience consciously created through an expression of skill or imagination. I suppose that's a more accurate definition of what art is about. It's not only an object, but I think art is really an experience as well. So it doesn't mean art has to result in the creation of an object. And it says here the term art encompasses diverse media such as painting, sculpture, printmaking, drawing, etc. Right? And the list goes on. Okay, so traditionally art encompasses mainly painting, sculpture, drawing, photography. Okay, but today so much more, right? We have installation art, performance, where the artist uses his or her body, right, as a work of art. Okay, and we have other forms that are coming up, okay, that really adds to our list, okay, of what defines a work of art. Now, in its original definition, art comes from the Latin. Now, in its original definition, skill or craft, comes from the Latin. Okay, so I suppose a prerequisite skill of then, means that yes, it is something that involves prerequisite of art, certain skill. Okay, means that yes, to be something that involves, and it says that it's a product of or process of the application of a body of knowledge. It says that it's most often using a set of skills. Okay, so according to the original definition of art, most often using skills seem to be according to the original prerequisite. Okay, skills seem to be an important prerequisite. Right? But the question is this: are skills still important today in defining what art is? Okay, so later on when I'm going through the other works, you'll see whether this is so. I have 5 definitions here. Okay, from many, 6 in fact. Okay, and so these are taken from artist quotes, and you can. They are really very interesting to read, right? I think at the beginning there were a couple of quotes, but these are some more quotes about what art is. Okay, Matisse quotes is one of my favorite, right? Art is like a good armchair, right, in which to rest from physical fatigue. Okay, and Marisol, who says art is about mystery. Okay, so there are others who think that, art is about the unknown. Okay, or making the unknown known, making the invisible visible. And this quote by Milton Glaser, he's a designer. He says art is. So you can fill in your blanks that art is. Right? I suppose that's the most inclusive definition. Right? Art is. You can fill in your blanks with what art is about. Okay, and Ambrose Bierce, who says art, a noun, right? This word has no definition. So there are some artists and philosophers who believe that art defies any definition. I mean, you may be puzzled, right? Okay, you think that, well, art has a certain definition, but it's not. It's not as straightforward, right? It's actually more complex than that. Well, come to this work, okay, by David Hensel. Now this work was submitted as a work for the Royal Academy of Art summer exhibition. Now the Royal Academy of Art is a prestigious art institution in the UK. David Hensel submitted this. Now what happened? Now he submitted the head. Right? The head is made of jasmonite. And there's a plinth as well. Okay, you can see the plinth is made of slate. And the head itself rests on a bone. You can see the bone there. So what happened is that the head became separated from the plinth and the bone. Right? In fact, I believe the head went back to the artist. Okay, so what was submitted was only the plinth and the bone. And the Royal Academy of Art jurors thought that was the work, the plinth and the bone. Okay, so the artist decided to leave it as such. He gave it another name. It's called Another Day Closer to Paradise. So a new work has been created from the original work without the head. I mean, you might think that all this is it's a joke, a prank, but such things do happen. Right? And for the Royal Academy to overlook this, it's quite a, I suppose because, as I mentioned, art is so difficult sometimes to define. Okay, and art forms keep on expanding. That sometimes, you think the bone itself, okay, is the work of art. Okay, and that long quote by David Hensel kind of exposes the kind of pantomime of contemporary art. Okay, where people in the art world, critics, curators, even artists, collectors, okay, all of them seem to be a kind of a conspiracy, in this whole pantomime. Even as I mentioned, the prizes of artworks. Okay, that's also part of this pantomime of contemporary art. As mentioned, the visual arts, consisted traditionally of painting, sculpture, architecture is sometimes included, as well as drawing, photography. But later on in the 20th century, you have new art forms like installation, performance, video, photography. Right? So the definition of art keeps on expanding. Right? Today there's a big debate about photography. Is photography considered art? Right? Is a selfie that you take with your phone every day, can that be considered to be a work of art? So there are all these debates that are going on. Now the problem is this, that artists have challenged and will keep on challenging, right, this definition by coming up with counter examples. Okay, meaning to say that coming up with works that continue to challenge, okay, the very definition of what art is. Okay, and it says that the artworks may lack the qualities long associated with art, such as beauty, skilled craftsmanship, and clear organization. Right? So artists, in their own way, they continue to subvert the very notion of what art is. Right? For example, modern artists have subverted the notion of art as something beautiful. Or they have subverted the notion of art as something that involves skill. Okay, for example, conceptual art, where one only relies on ideas. Okay, talking about ideas. Okay, I suppose this is the work that kind of, started it all. Anyone come across this work? Or have read about it somewhere? Yeah, Marcel Duchamp's. It's entitled Fountain. But what is it actually? What is it? It's a urinal. Okay. A urinal that Duchamp bought from a hardware store, turned it upside down, and he signed it with a fictitious name, R. Mutt. M-U-T-T. And he submitted it, okay, for this exhibition organized by the Society of Independent Artists. He submitted it. Okay, and ironically, he was on the jury. Okay, I suppose, okay, we'll never know to this day, right, whether he did that as a prank. Okay, or to so-called expose the hypocrisy of the jury. Okay, but not surprisingly, he was rejected. Okay, because, they call this art. Okay, in any case, but after he was rejected, he wrote a kind of a retort. Okay, he says that whether Mr. Mutt made the work or not is inconsequential. Right? He gave a new thought to the work. Okay, and that to Duchamp was a key point. He gave a new thought to the work. Okay, he selected it, right? He transformed the work. He signed on it. Okay, it has become a work of art. Right? So Duchamp was very important. I mean, this work and also Duchamp, right? I think this work is probably one of the most influential, if not the most influential work of the 20th century. Okay, because it influenced the whole movement known as conceptual art. Conceptual art. Okay, where art, where the idea, the concept, okay, was considered to be more important than the finished product. Okay, so this whole notion of art as an idea, a concept, started with Duchamp. Okay, and with this work, he also kind of challenged, other existing beliefs or ideas about art. He challenged, for example, the idea of originality. Okay, because the original work was lost, but he had no hesitation in making replicas. So today there are many replicas of Fountain, of this work, okay, existing in different museums. Okay, the original is already lost. he challenged the notion of authorship. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Okay, because this work was originally urinal, right? And he argued that a work can be brought to the status of artwork by declaring them to be so. Okay, so he has put a lot of emphasis on the artist's intention. The artist's intention. And he also placed a lot of emphasis on the audience. Okay, to Duchamp, it's very important that he argued that an artwork can only become an artwork. It can only be completed, okay, with the audience. Okay, when the audience view it. Okay, so those are very important ideas that has influenced the whole course of the history of art. But of course, today, Duchamp still has his detractors. People still think he's a prankster. Right? In fact, his first love was not art. Right? His first love was playing chess. Right? And later on, he gave up everything. He went back to playing chess. So whether this work actually began as a prank, we may never know. Okay, but for me, I mean, I had the privilege of seeing a Duchamp retrospective last October in Japan. Okay, I think it's only when you see such a big kind of retrospective, you'll be able to understand, right, what he was trying to do. Okay, because he was quite a competent artist as well. Okay, but he decided to take another route. Okay, he decided to be a kind of a philosopher, right? Okay, rather than being just painting or sculpting. Oh, yeah, that's a quote. Okay, whether Mr. Mark with his own hands made the fountain or not has no importance. He chose it. Okay, and then under the new title and point of view, created a new thought for the object. So here we have what we call the artist's intention. Right? So the artist's intention is also I think it's important in defining whether a work is art or not. In the end, whose definition? Okay, and we have to be careful about this because, so on the one hand, you have the Western definition of art. Okay, I suppose the definitions I gave you, the Oxford one, Encyclopedia Britannica, those tend to be more the Western definition. Right? And the Western definition of art is quite different from definitions of art in non-Western cultures, right? In tribal societies and other kind of historical periods. Okay, this is one of the oldest drawings in the world. Okay, it can be found in a cave in Lascaux, right in France. And if you look at this work, right, these are some paintings of horses and bulls, right, painted on the walls, on the cave walls. Now, do you consider this to be art? Right, that's a big question. Is this art? By whose definition is it art? Let's consider whether the artists who painted this, so-called artists are in close inverted commas, open or close inverted commas, whether they consider this to be art when they painted this work. Did they have that notion, okay, of what they did as art? Well, we are not sure. Maybe they did. Okay, maybe they even had an art school like La Salle, where people went. You never know, we never know, right? Okay, art school, you never know, right? Where people learn to paint. Okay, yeah. Okay, but going further, I'll come back to this cave painting again. Tribal art. I don't want to use the word primitive. It's not a very nice term to use, but really art made by I suppose non-Western cultures, right? like African art. And African art, differs so vastly from Western art in terms of its conception, in terms of its form, in terms of its technique. And in fact, Western modern art was influenced. Okay, quite a number of modern artists like Picasso and Matisse, they were influenced by African art. Right, but when you look at a statue like this is a fetish sculpture, right? A fetish statue. Or you can easily take an African mask, right? For example, right? Now, do the makers, right, of this work in Africa, right? Do they have a conception of what art is when they did this work? Right? Did they think, to themselves, oh, I'm creating a work of art? I would say probably not. Okay, because most of these objects were made for certain functional purposes, right? One of which is ritual. Okay, they were made for for purposes of rituals and dance and right, and other kind of ceremonies, right? Which really have nothing to do with art per se. It's only when Western historians, Western artists first encountered this work that they were struck by the peculiar beauty of these objects. Okay, and they started to collect them, put them in museums. Okay, not knowing the original content of this work. Okay, and that's how they acquired the status of art. Okay, so we have to understand, that art, as we know, sometimes is a Western definition. It's a Western definition. Okay, for example, when the Chinese made porcelain, right, which we have elevated to a form of fine art or high art, the porcelain to them, right, were used, right, as everyday objects, as pillows, as even to put your paintbrushes on, to rest your paintbrushes. They were used for practical reasons, right? But later on, they were kind of elevated, right, to the status of high art. What about craft? Is it considered art? Anyone? Yes? Okay. Now, it's interesting. Why do you say so?
Well, like art itself, craft, you have to make them and you have to present them.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you express it is also expression. So it is a form of art.
Sure. Yes. Good argument. Good explanation. Anyone else? Kind of. Yes, I think you're right. I do agree with you. I mean, craft. Is it considered art? Yes, it is. But people call it low art. Okay, so there's this dichotomy between low art, what is considered low art, and what is considered high art. See? But thankfully, this in contemporary art, this distinction has begun to blur. Right, or what is, but it still remains, right? It remains. Okay, I'm going to show you some examples. This is a Navajo blanket. Okay, the Navajo is a kind of a North American tribe. I suppose this is one example. You can even use, for example, Aboriginal paintings from, Australia, for example, as an example. Right, and this is a chief's blanket, right, with some geometric shapes. What makes this different from the kind of abstract art or painting that you see in the 20th century? Right? But because of the fact that it was made by a group of tribespeople, probably women, okay, and because it's meant to be used, okay, people really don't see it as art, but rather craft. Now, is that a fair definition? Okay, that is craft rather than art. So what is craft really? Right. Now, how is craft distinguished from art? Okay, and it says there that these items are long classified as craft. Why? Because firstly, they use non-artistic materials. Okay, that's one. Secondly, they are useful objects. They are functional objects. They are made for a purpose. Okay, and thirdly, these objects were normally made by groups of women. Okay, I don't know whether that is because they were made by women that they're not considered art, but in any case, many of these objects were made actually by women. Right? And fourthly, their makers are normally anonymous. Okay? So I suppose because of all these reasons, okay, such works tend to be categorized as craft rather than art. Okay? Because when we think of art or fine art, okay, we think of a certain individual making it. Right? Okay? And when we think of art, we think that it's not meant to be functional. Right? Most of the time, art is not meant to be functional. For example, if you look at these three works here, very decorative, very colorful, right? What do you consider them? Craft or art? I suppose they don't have a function, right? Okay, you can't use them for any kind of purpose. They are meant to be decorative. Okay, the artist is probably known, Hiro Endo, so artist is known. Okay, but I suppose it's just to provoke you into thinking, right, about whether there's a fair definition. Okay, so works like that, okay, will normally term low art. Okay, low art. I mean, you think about it, right? The skills that go into the making of a certain artwork, okay, right, is the same skill that go into the making of, right, the Navajo blanket, right? You need skill as well. And as I mentioned, skill is one of the prerequisites of art. Okay, but anyway, this is a long debate, and people are still debating about this distinction between art and craft. But today, okay, critics and historians try to avoid this division between high and low art. Okay, and I think this change in attitude, I suppose, is a reflection of our changing social values as well. Right? So as we evolve as a society, as our values change, right, I think the definition of art also will change. And many artists today, right, in the West as well as in Asia, okay, notably Southeast Asia, right, they tend to make art. Okay, they tend to in a sense use their tradition, okay, their culture as a reference for their art making, okay, or even as a material, in fact. Right. So this artist we have, quite a famous artist based in Yogyakarta in Indonesia. Okay, Diditio Adiponomo, and he's a Javanese. He's based in Yogyakarta, and he did this work. It's called Hiding Rituals and the Mass Production. Now the font that you see there, it's quite dark, huh? Is it okay? I don't know whether they can switch off this light. Huh? Oh, you have here, okay. Yeah, refer to your notes if you can. Sorry, it's a bit. Now this form is actually based on what you call the Konde, Konde. Now the Konde is a kind of a volume built from human hair. Okay, so in Java they have this custom, okay, where women will pick up their hairs, their fallen hairs, and then build it up to a volume. Okay, and that Konde serves as a decorative hairpiece. Okay, they will attach that to their hair, and it becomes a signifier of their marital status. It's also a signifier of their sensuality. Okay, so this is what we call a conde. Okay, so here Adipronomo is referencing his own culture, his own tradition, right, for this work. And not only that, he actually engaged with the local community to make this work. The local craft community, right? In this case, is rattan. Okay, so he actually worked with them, okay, to make this work. Right? It's a way of kind of interrogating, sharing his own ideas about, his own culture and his own community. So this is one example where Southeast Asian artists are, using traditional materials in their work. Alright, and we have another famous Cambodian artist called Sopi Pik, who also uses, rattan and bamboo as part of his work. So all these materials were traditionally considered to be used in craft. Okay, but today, increasingly, artists are using them, okay, in their work. Okay, so this distinction between low art and high art, okay, is beginning to be blurred. So if you look at these three works, very different, right? Okay, one is a cave painting from Lascaux. The other one is a modern art abstract painting by Piet Mondrian. And the other one is a Renaissance work by Michelangelo. Okay. So what is it that enables us to group them together as art? Do they share any common denominators? Anyone can identify any common denominator? No? Okay, but we can see that all of them qualify as art. We agree on that. Okay, because they are found in art books, or in art history books. Right? Okay, I'll come to some definition. I won't go through all of this. And they're all very interesting, and I hope that after this talk, okay, you can go back and read about because many of this, the definition of art, okay, emerges from philosophy and art theory. Okay, and sometimes they can be quite heavy, right? But they are most of the time quite interesting in the way they look at things, in the way that they look at art. Okay, some of these philosophers. So, for example, the three works that you saw there, we can use one of the theories here. Right. I mean, a work of art, would conform to some, if not all, of these theories. Okay, and all of these are merely theories. Okay, so those three works that we see, for example, we have this. This point number 6 and the last. And the second, point number 6 especially, I think I have another one, the last point. Okay. Relation to previous works and be perceptually similar to other works. Now this comes from a theory called the theory of family resemblance. Right? And it's by this philosopher called Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein. Okay. And Wittgenstein, came out with this theory of family resemblance. Okay, and he used games as an example. Games. So, what make us recognize games as games? Okay, chess, for example, solitaire, bridge. They're all very different, but we recognize them as games. Right? So he came out with this theory of family resemblance, in which he argued that, like family members. Okay, there's no feature that is common to everyone in the family. Okay, but these features actually crisscross and overlap. Right? Okay, so think about it. So, it's similar with art. Okay, the three different artworks that we saw there. Okay, there may not be one common feature, or one feature common to all. Okay, but the features crisscross and overlap that make us recognize them as art. But having said that, there are many problems there are problems with most or all of these theories. They have their own, they have their pros but also the cons. Okay, so theory of family resemblance also have their, so-called, weaknesses, right, in its argument, right? Because, and for many of these theory, the problem is this: whenever a new art form comes, okay, how do you fit them within that theory? Okay, because since our definition of art is not closed, it's always open. Right? So it means that the definition always is, is expansive, right? Of what art is. It goes on and on. Okay, where does it end, in a sense? Right? It's always inclusive. Okay, so I think that's one of the problems, right, with an open definition of art. So there are others, like artifactuality, second point. Right? An artifact, right, is described as an object produced or shaped by human craft, by human agency. Artifactuality. So that must be one of the criteria according to some, right? Criteria of art. But as you have seen, how about art produced by animals or even a robot? Okay, so something to think about. Okay, whether art is only created by, or human agency is needed for something to be called art. So we have to think of those, questions. And the third point, right? The third point is be created with. I'm not going to go through all, just maybe one or two more. Be created and displayed within an institutional context. Now, this theory was popularized by a man called George Dickey. Bickie, George Dickey. His institutional theory of art. And he says that there are two conditions for something to be called an artwork. First condition, it must be an artifact. Okay, we have already defined what it is. Okay, something created, okay, by human agency. Secondly, it says that work, okay, must be conferred, right, the status of candidature. Now it's a bit heavy, conferred the status of candidature, right? It means that, in other words, in short, right, the work itself needed to be sanctioned. And who sanctions the work? He calls them the art world. Right? Actually, the art world, this word art world, I don't know whether you're familiar with this word art world. Right? It's a word, it's a term that was coined by this Colombian University philosopher called Arthur Danto. Okay? And by art world, he means people like critics, curators, historians, like myself, okay, collectors even, right? Maybe artists themselves. Okay, these are people in the art world. Okay, so for something we called art, it needs to be conferred that stature or that status of candidature. Right? In a sense, what it means is that a candidature for appreciation. Okay, to use his terms. Okay, meaning to say that, yes. In short, no. Yes. You need to be part of the art world, yes. Okay? Because, let me explain, okay, to cut a long story short, right, it's the art world that determines whether a work is accepted and is displayed in a gallery or museum. Okay, so ultimately, who decides that? In a museum, it's the curators, right? The museum director who decides that. Right? Okay, so yeah, so it's a very exclusive club. Unfortunately, but then again, that's a problem, I suppose. Okay, because as I said, it can be abused, I suppose. I don't want to elaborate here because of time, but yeah. But anyway, yeah, just to tell you about institutional context. So, what makes, for example, this work, again, using this example, what makes this work a work of art? Let's say if you see this work, similar work in Robinson's. Okay, Robinson's. Do you consider the work you see in Robinson's a work of art? No. It's a department store. This is an art gallery. Okay? So, this whole argument about the context of the work. Now again, it's not foolproof. Okay, there are criticisms about Dickey's theory, right? As I said, you can go back and read further about Dickey's theory. Very interesting theory, and he himself was influenced by Arthur Danto, D-A-N-T-O, okay, the Columbia University philosopher who died a couple of years ago. And Arthur Danto argued because he first saw Andy Warhol's Brillo boxes. Andy Warhol made Brillo boxes. I think for those Brillo pens, And if you put his Brillo boxes beside a real Brillo box, okay, they look similar. So Arthur Danto was puzzled by this for a long time. He said, hey, what makes Warhol's Brillo boxes a work of art? Okay, while the other Brillo box you see in the warehouse and all that, just an ordinary object. And he argues that there must be a certain theory behind it. A theory. Okay, meaning to say, someone, must be able to theorize about the work, must be able to write about the work. Okay, so there must be a certain theory, and the work must be put, and the work also must, someone must have some knowledge of the history of art as well. Because 50 years ago, Andy Warhol's Brillo boxes would not have been considered art. Okay, but maybe in the 70s things have changed. Okay, so his work also needs to be located in the history of art. Okay, so in other words, what he means is that what makes a work of art or something art is that a theory behind it. Okay, and it's and especially today. Okay, I have to say that if you look at contemporary art, right, galleries, commission writers to write about works. Why? Okay, because like they commission famous curators or famous even historians and critics to write about artworks. Okay, because those works needed a certain theory, right, to be able to justify its existence, so to speak. Right? Even a piece of log, I remember some years ago the piece of log, it was actually a branch from one of the trees that were cut down in Changi, right? And so the artist decided to display it, and it was displayed in Sculpture Square. And Sculpture Square is an art gallery. I mean, it's more an art space. Right? So by virtue of that context, it's already an artwork. Right? And there's a whole text. Someone has written a whole text about it, about the work. Okay, so this is the direction that things are going. You must have a certain theory behind it. So it's not as simple as you say, oh, okay, I decided to pick a driftwood from a beach. Okay, I decide to display it. Okay, but if no one writes about it, it's difficult to see how your work, okay, can become a work of art. Okay, so there are many others. Sorry, I spent. I think there's another one very interesting. Is the fifth point, expressive of emotion. Right, it must be expressive of emotion. And this theory was popularized by a philosopher called R.G. Collingwood. R.G. Collingwood. Collingwood believes that when an artist makes a work of art, he puts his emotions, his feelings inside the work. Okay? And when a viewer sees it or views it, he must be able to experience the same emotions and feelings. Right? So for a work to become a work of art, okay, the viewer must be able to relate to that work on an emotional level as well. Okay, and experience the same kind of emotions, right, that the artist did. when he created that work, or in the process of creating that work. So for example, if the storyteller tells a story about a wolf, eating up, or devouring, some young boys, for example, okay, the audience must be able to feel or that same fear that the boys would have felt when they encountered the wolf. Okay, so art must be an expressive of emotion. Okay, so this is is my own definition. Okay, but I'm attempting to come up with some definition, right? Okay, so it's a product of creative human activity which materials are shaped or selected to convey an idea, emotion, or visually interesting form. Okay, and it's a primarily visual medium. I say primarily, it's not, right? It need not be, right? There's used to express ideas about human experience and the world around us. Okay, I don't know whether that's a kind of exhaustive definition, but I suppose it's a kind of a satisfactory definition, okay, of what art is about. Okay, good. I finished with the first half. I'm going to just before going on to the next part of my lecture is this definition of art is elusive and constantly changing. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, why do we make art? Okay, why? Now, anyone again, the audience, can you tell me why we make art? Again, words, phrases. Why do we make art? Relieve stress. Okay, good. Relieve stress. So I like that. Yes, very philosophical. We have an inner necessity to express ourselves. Right? So it's, any more? Expression of? Huh? Expression of idea. Oh, yes, right. Expression of an idea. Okay. That's a very important point because some people think that art is the only way, right, that you can express a certain idea. Okay? Right? There's no other better way. Any other?
Sometimes it's passion and interest.
Sorry?
To leave a legacy and interest.
Passion and interest. Yes, and to leave?
To leave a legacy to make history.
Yes, very important point. I have the point here in my side. Yes, to leave a legacy. Yeah. Okay, so you have some ideas. Yeah, all those are, of course, acceptable ideas about why we make art. Okay, I want to start with a quote by Picasso. The purpose of art is washing the dust of daily life off our souls. Okay, I like this quote a lot, Right, and as you say, relieve stress. I mean, in a sense as well, right? It's to relieve stress, to wash the dust of daily life off our souls. Okay, and many philosophers have argued that art serves no function. So you have the other argument that art serves no function. Okay, there is this phrase called art for art's sake. Have you heard this phrase, art for art's sake? Okay, meaning to say that art does not exist to serve any kind of purposes or convey any kind of political, cultural, moral ideas. Right? It doesn't have to be that, and that's what I think some of the abstract artists of the 20th century believe. Right? But even when you look at a piece of abstract art, okay, it carries with it its own idea. It reflects a certain context, right? A certain political, social, or cultural context. Okay, so I would say that no art is. This phrase, art for art's sake, can be challenged, right? Because all art, in a sense, no art really is produced in isolation. Okay, it must have been inspired or influenced by something, right? A certain context. Okay? And others feel that in trying to analyze art too closely, one loses sight of its beauty and wonderment. So, but I suppose it's important to ask, why was art created? You know, what is its purpose? And people make art for many reasons. And sometimes, these purposes and meanings of art can sometimes overlap. Okay, so a work of art can be both religious and political at the same time. If you look at Renaissance art, for example, okay, the title might say Adoration of the Magi, meaning to say the so-called three wise men, visiting Jesus, the baby Jesus, and kind of, worshipping him. Okay, but then you look closely again. Okay, who are the three wise men, painted there? Right, the three wise men happen to be, I remember a painting by Botticelli. The three wise men happen to be the members of this powerful family called Medici family. Okay, they are actually their portraits. Okay, so religious art during the Renaissance, okay, was also used to convey, the power, right, of the elites, right, the powerful families during the Renaissance. So I'm going to go through, some of the purposes of art. It's not exhaustive. Okay, you can add your own list to it. Okay, these are just some of the purposes. Okay, the first one is create beauty. Right. Now, artists throughout history have always sought to, there's this quote, right? I think by Barnett Newman. He's a modern artist. And it says that the impulse of modern art is to destroy beauty. The impulse of modern art is to destroy beauty. Okay, but I have to say that historically, the impulse of art was to create beauty, not to destroy. Okay, and the Greeks, for example, if you look at the Greeks and historically some of the other cultures, okay, they have always sought to improve upon nature. Okay, to improve upon nature. And we have this word called idealize. Right? Okay, and this is especially relevant to describing Greek art. Okay, they wanted to create idealized figures, idealized sculptures. Okay, sculptures which really have no imperfections. Okay, if you look at Greek art, okay, you don't see any warts, right, or imperfections. Okay, they wanted to create an idealized figure. So, it's like that. Can I get the? I think we need to see the. Hold on. Yeah, Joanne. Hey, Joanne. Can you off this? I think it's a bit bright. They can't see. Ah, yes. This is a work by Jean-Auguste Dominique Ang. Okay, some people, the pronunciation of his name varies. Some pronounce it Angre, some Ang. Okay, and matter of fact, I saw this work a couple of weeks ago in the Louvre, right? If you go to the Louvre, right, do remember to catch his work. Now, this work is a nude. Okay, it continues the Western tradition of the reclining nude. Okay, it's a reclining nude. The title of this work is La Grande Odalisque. Right. Now, the Odalisque is actually a concubine. Right. In the so-called Orient, the lands of the Orient. Okay, notably the Middle East, right, and Africa. Right, mainly the Middle East. Okay, you have, for example, in Turkey. Okay, you have all these, sultans and all that. They keep a harem, okay, of concubines. So Ang is trying to depict one of these concubines, the odalisque in a harem. Right? Although he had never traveled to the Orient. Okay, so he's making a lot of use of his imagination. Now, if you look at this reclining mute, I think what Ang was trying to do, sorry, they can't adjust the lights, but you have a picture right with you. Hopefully you can just refer to that picture. Okay, and maybe when you go back you can look at the colored version. Okay, now do you find anything wrong with that mute? Is there anything wrong? Sorry? Proportion, right? So Millie knows she's an artist. So artists may be able to be able to tell, right? The proportion. Right. You see that it's a bit elongated. Right? And people actually made a study of this and they thought that she suffered from several things like curvature of the spine, pelvic distortion. Okay, and even went to the extent of saying there's 3 vertebrae too many. Right? And Ang is too good of a draftsman. I mean not draftsman as in technical, but one who draws. He's probably the greatest draftsman who ever lived. Right? He's too good of a draftsman, too good of an artist to make such an anatomical inaccuracies. And he did that, I think he did that to enhance, right, the sensuality, right, the elegance of the figure. So I suppose Ang is, he's using some artistic license here, right, to idealize his figure, right, to make the figure more sensuous or central and elegant than it is. But we can already see his skill, for example, the sumptuous, objects that surround this figure, the peacock fan, right, the curtains, okay, even the headdress she's wearing, okay, all testify to the skill of Ang. Right? Now, another reason for making art is really to decorate, right? The aesthetic urge. Okay, I think this is really one, and works of art have always been used to create, a pleasant environment. Okay? And we can see this most clearly in Islamic art. Okay, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Islamic art. Okay, but Islamic art is highly decorative, highly ornamental, and there's a reason for that. Okay, and the reason is because in Islam there's a prohibition against the depiction of figures in art. Okay? Actually, it's not the Quran. You don't find it in the Quran, that prohibition. It's actually in the Hadith. The Hadith is the second holiest book, right, in Islam. Right? And in the Hadith, it said that you should not make figures because that is seen as, competing against God. So the impulse in Islamic art was to create this so-called non-figurative works instead, decorative works. So, but it doesn't mean that there are no figures in Islamic art. Okay, you'll find figures, but in religious context, like in the mosque, in the Quran, okay, you won't find any figures. Okay, they are mainly made up of abstract motifs. Okay, either geometric, calligraphic, or vegetal motif. Right. So there are 3 types of this kind of non-figurative motifs in Islamic art. Vegetal, calligraphic, and geometric. So, like what you see here is comprised of geometric motifs, right? More or less like, and I mean this kind of work, attests to the skill of the Islamic artists. They're not easy to make. Okay, so what the Islamic artists did was that they would just take a basic shape and multiply that shape infinitely, repeatedly. and of course you need to have a very good knowledge of mathematics and to do this, and also you need the aid of certain equipment like the compass, right, in order to create such works. Okay. So this is a very beautiful example that we find in the Alhambra Palace in Granada, in Spain, where the Muslims ruled for a period of time. Okay. And if you have been to the Alhambra, right, okay, they will have inscriptions, boasting of its beauty. Right? So this is a very nice example. And also, if you look at patterns like this, right, these type of patterns also express the logic and order of the Islamic vision of the universe. So there are a lot of religious symbolism as well in this kind of patterns and decoration. Okay, for the in Islamic art. To immortalize, to leave a legacy, whatever, however you put it. Okay. And I think this urge, this impulse to immortalize, okay, can already be seen, for example, during the time of the Egyptians, okay, where they mummify bodies. Okay, that is really that was meant to be a desire to immortalize. Okay, but also think of the genre of portraiture. Okay, why do people paint portraits? It's an attempt, a desire to immortalize. So if you look at, for example, some of the old Roman houses, in Pompeii, in the city of Pompeii that have been discovered, okay, they normally have, portraits painted on the walls of the houses. Right? So there was an attempt there to immortalize. Right? So it's a bit distracting here, but okay. And artists can also define mortality by creating works that will remain in public consciousness. Right? So it's not only portraits, but things like sculpture, okay, and a few other kind of art forms that seek to immortalize. And I have this example here. How many of you have seen this image? Che Guevara. Right? I'm sure some of you have seen it. Now, the one on the left is the original photograph, okay, of Che Guevara, taken by Alberto Corder. Now, Alberto Corder was the photographer. Okay, there was this memorial held for the victims of explosion. I think it's a ship explosion, and it was suspected that the explosion was caused by the enemies of Cuba, right? The Cubans. But anyway, before that, who was Che Guevara? Che Guevara was an Argentine revolutionary. Okay, he went to Cuba. He fought for the Cuban revolutionaries under Fidel Castro, and he later even became a minister in Castro's government. Okay, anyway, in this memorial, Che Guevara attended. Right? He was very angry, right? And Corder was able to capture him in that mood. So when Corder captured Che Guevara, he described that image as one of absolute impeccability. Right? He find that Che Guevara was very stoic, very firm, even angry. But actually, when you look at this image, it is actually a crop, edited image. Okay, because the original image has a palm tree on the left and I think a few other things. So it's actually cropped, it's actually edited. So when you do that, okay, when Corder did that, he has actually, he actually helped to immortalize. He made the image timeless. Right? He made the image timeless and universal. Right? So if you have the palm tree and all that, you see it differently. But if it's just his face like that, right, it creates a different impression. Anyway, to keep a long story short, later on, Jim Fitzpatrick, an American artist, decided to do a poster of Che Guevara, right, in psychedelic colors. And I think it's because of James Fitzpatrick that, helped to perpetuate the myth of Che Guevara and helped to popularize this image. I think besides the Mona Lisa and maybe Marilyn Monroe's image, of a skirt, and besides all those, famous images, I think this image is probably one of the most widely circulated images in history. Right? You can find it in, on T-shirts and, I don't know, marks and, right, and all that. So, and this image became what you call a counter-cultural symbol. A counter-cultural symbol. Right? It became a symbol of rebellion and activism. Right? It was popular with people living in the 60s, for example. Right? The psychedelic 60s, and even today. Right? I believe it's still a counter-cultural symbol. People still wear the T-shirt with his face on it, probably not knowing what the original image is about. And interestingly, Corder and Fitzpatrick didn't take any royalties from this. You can go on and you can reproduce the image, but you won't get into copyright trouble because they said that they wanted to spread these revolutionary ideals. Okay, so they didn't want to take any royalties, right, from this image. Now, to record historical events, I just have a few more to go, right? So, another function is to record historical events. In fact, without all these artifacts and artworks, okay, the history of certain cultures wouldn't be known. Okay, so it's very useful as a form of documentation. And this work, I don't know whether some of you have seen it. Okay, when you go to Rome, okay, Trajan's column. Okay, it's this is a commemorative column. It was made to commemorate the victory of Trajan. Okay, over the Dracians, D-R-A-C-I-A-N. The Dracians were a group of people living in Romania. Right, so the Emperor Trajan, won a victory over them. Okay, and this column, I can't remember the exact height. Okay, but you can see that it's really high. Okay, and it was constructed to commemorate the victory. So it's a commemorative column. Okay? And if you look at the column, okay, it actually goes up in a kind of a continuous frieze. Okay, and it contains all in total about over 2,600 figures. Okay, showing the Romans and the Dracians at war. Okay, and this column as well has over 50 figures of the emperor. Right? It shows him sometimes addressing his troops. It shows him, honoring his gods. Right? And shows him giving speeches. So this column is more than being commemorative. It's actually for the purpose of propaganda as well. Right? Okay, and I think at one, and it makes us fat with fiction. Yes, historians, they study this column very closely, okay, to look at, the German military system. So from this column, right, from the figures you can tell, what are the tactics that the Romans use, okay, the kind of equipment they use, right, the armor they use. So it's very useful as a kind of documentation. I think it's good. Do you all hear me behind? Sure, good. Actually, I prefer to use without. Okay. Hello. Good. Okay. So on top, you see a figure right on top, right? And that figure used to be a figure of the emperor himself, Trajan. Okay. But when the Christians took over Rome, they replaced his figure with a figure of Saint Peter. Okay, so you no longer see a figure of Trajan there, but Saint Peter. Okay. You see that when artists used to study this figure, they would lower themselves down, from the top, and they would, lower slowly, and they would study the figures there. That's the only way. Or else you can't really see it, right? See these figures clearly. Okay, so really, art. One of the purposes was for, documentation, right? Okay, to document history. Okay. Oh, it's getting crooked. It's okay. I hope you can. Well, just refer to your notes. Sorry, for all this, maybe the next time we'll try to get it right. Next one is to express religious values, or to express, in a sense, to express religious piety. Okay. That's one of the oldest functions of art, if you think about it. Now, think back to the cave painting. Okay, the Lascaux cave painting. Okay, it is one of the most popular theory and one of the most widely kind of believed theories that those works were actually used for some sort of rituals. Okay, those bulls and the horses that were painted on the cave, they were used as part of a certain ritual. Okay, so you can see that art, from its very beginnings, okay, were already used for religious purposes. And in Asia, especially in Asia, sometimes, at certain periods of time, art was almost synonymous with religion. Right? And in certain countries like India, okay, art was synonymous with religion. Okay, and now this is a Buddhist sculpture. Okay, I will consider this to be one of the finest Buddhist sculpture that were ever produced. Okay, and the Buddha image, in fact, first made its appearance between the 2nd century BC and the 2nd century AD. Right, so it's during that period when the Buddha image first appeared. Okay, and there are many styles. Okay, and this particular Buddha image was made in the Gupta dynasty. And it was made in this place called Sanath. Right? And I will consider this to be one of the finest examples of the Buddha image ever made. Right? Now, why do I consider that? Look at that. Look at the overall. Look at it overall. The balance, right? The proportion. Okay. The symmetry. Okay, that's one. But if you look at the figure itself, okay, look at the eyes, the downcast eyes, the almost transparent drapery that clings to the body, okay, and the overall proportion. Now, all this gives the figure a kind of transcendental quality, okay, a kind of otherworldly quality, right? Okay, that's really unsurpassed, okay, in the history of Buddhist art. Okay, and art was also meant to teach. It has a didactic value, and it also helps us to understand the world better. Okay, and if you look at this stained glass window, right? Now, anyone knows what the purpose of stained glass is? It has a symbolic purpose and it has a practical purpose. The symbolic purpose is it symbolizes light. Okay, light as understood in the Bible, right? Where Jesus is the light of the world. Okay, because it allows natural light to come in to filter through the stained glass windows and and to go to the interior of the church, creating a kind of a kind of heaven on earth, a kind of religious, kind of atmosphere, right, within the church itself. Okay, but it has a practical purpose as well, practical function. And the practical function was to teach. Okay, because it's stained glass, they serve as a kind of visual Bible. Okay, so they were not only meant to decorate, they were symbolic as well, as I mentioned, and also they were meant to teach. Right? Because most of the people at that time were illiterate. Okay, so these stained glass windows were meant to, tell certain Bible stories. So this example you see here is called the Blue Virgin window. One of the most famous examples that you find in Chartres Cathedral. Chartres Cathedral is not far from Paris. Okay, it's one of the famous cathedrals, and with probably the most well-preserved stained glass windows. Okay, and this is one of the most famous examples depicting the Virgin Mary with the Christ child, and on top of the Virgin Mary is the dove. The dove signifies or symbolizes the Holy Spirit. And you'll find in French cathedrals, okay, the stained glass in French cathedrals, blue and red, okay, they are normally the colors, okay, that you'll find in this stained glass. And blue is actually symbolic of the Virgin Mary. Right? Okay, I'm going to end soon. I hope you bear with me. Okay, and another kind of function of art is to stimulate the intellect, right? Is to make us think more profoundly. Okay? Not only to stimulate, but to challenge our intellect, right? So it has that cognitive function. I think that's what makes art, sometimes quite challenging as well. Okay, because it challenges our intellect as well. Right? It advances also our self-knowledge and our knowledge of the outside world. So remember earlier in the talk, I said that art is not merely a visual kind of form. It can also involve text. I suppose you can argue that text is visual in some ways as well. Okay, especially like this. Okay, but this is a work, okay, by an artist called Jenny Holzer. And Jenny Holzer specialized in using text, okay, for her art. And she invented this, what she calls truism, Truisms, truisms. Okay, truisms are like what you call aphorisms. Okay, very short phrases that express certain universal truths. Okay? And I suppose all the truisms were invented by her, although some may sound like, kind of everyday phrases that we used to hear. Okay? And some of her truisms go like this: abuse of power comes as no surprise. Okay, so and they are very political in nature as well. Okay, some of her truisms. And this particular one, okay, that she kind of carved on a marble bench is called "Sever kindness because cruelty is always possible later." Now, some of her truisms are more straightforward, are more literal. Others are a bit more complex, and they can appear anywhere. They could appear here in a bench. They could appear on a billboard, okay, a cinema billboard. They could be projected onto a building. In fact, in 2006, during the first Singapore Biennial, Jenny Holzer was here in Singapore, and by using Xenon projection, okay, words were projected onto City Hall and Supreme Court. Okay, check out. I mean, it's still, you can find it somewhere, if you Google it. Right, so she was here in Singapore. Right? Okay, so you see an artist like this who, I mean, here, as I said, she challenges our intellect. I mean, she challenges us on an intellectual level, right? Because I suppose many of her, her truisms make you think more profoundly about the world around you. Okay? Oops. Cut off, but never mind. Okay, another function is to express personal experiences. Okay. Now, I have to say that this, using art to record personal experiences is actually something quite recent. As recent as the 19th century. Okay, because all along, art was always used to serve a certain purpose. Okay, like for example, from the medieval period onwards, or even from the time of the Egyptians, art was used to serve the state. Okay, or art was used to serve the church. Right, in Renaissance art. Okay, much of Renaissance art, or most of it, were commissioned by the church, for example, right, or by certain wealthy families. Okay? So art all along has been used to convey certain political, social, cultural ideals or ideals. Okay? So it was only recent times, okay, that when artists were freed from this necessity to please the patron, that they can start to record their own personal experiences. Only as recent as the 19th century, really. Okay, so it started with people like Van Gogh, Gauguin, right, where art was used as a vehicle to express their own emotions. Okay, and this is one very good example. Edvard Munch's The Scream. Okay, and Munch's work is really all about expressing his own anxieties, his own angst. Okay, his work can be about existentialism, existential angst that he expresses in his work. Okay? Because Munch, he wasn't quite stable mentally, right? He actually witnessed the death of his mother, his sister when he was very young. That affected him. Okay, and much of his art, expresses those anxieties, those fears. Right? And this is really the work that represents his the kind of art that he did, right? The Scream. Okay, and he described this work as something that happened to him in actual life. He was walking along the bridge with two friends. You can see the two friends, at the other side of the bridge. And then he saw the sky turning bloody red, as he describes it. He described it in his diary. Okay, the sky began to turn bloody red. Maybe he suffered from schizophrenia, we'll never know. Okay, but he began to see the sky turning bloody red and all that. And he suddenly heard a scream. Now he's not screaming there, but he actually heard a scream, and he's trying to shield himself, okay, from the piercing scream. Okay, so there's a piercing scream, and so in a sense, this work, and you can see that this work is what we call an example of expressionism. Okay, in an art movement, we call it expressionism. Okay, expressionism is a distortion of nature. Okay, meaning to say that you distort certain things like the lines. Okay, here he uses undulating, wavy lines. Okay, he uses clashing colors, violent colors. Okay, all of this he uses it to convey certain emotions and certain feelings. Right? So this is an example of an expressionistic work. Okay, where he uses art to express, right, certain emotions and feelings through the distortion of the formal qualities of the work, like line, colors, etc. Okay, and art was also used to reflect the social and cultural context. Artists use their works as a critique of their times and places. So I just want to go on quickly to Andy Warhol, Canvas Soup Pen. Now, I'm not sure if you know, most of you have heard of Andy Warhol, right? He's a pop artist, and he's one of the cleverest artists you can find, right? Because one fine day in 1962, right, he decided to buy some soup cans, okay, and then he decided to trace them. That was the beginning of the Campbell Soup Can series, 1962. And he was clever. Why? Because he was able to use objects, okay, in his art that were recognizable to people. Okay, pop artists drew from consumer culture and mass media, like advertising and consumer products. And that's why it's so clever, because most Americans will recognize what he painted. Okay, and he became famous. Okay, in a short time. Right? Okay, and so these works reflect the cultural context of his time. Okay, at that time, you're talking about the 50s or 60s, right? America was undergoing some, transformation. Okay, consumerism was thriving at that time. Okay? And yeah, and you have to understand that Warhol did this work as a reaction against the art that came before him. Okay, and the art that came before him was mainly abstract art. Made by people like Jackson Pollock, the American artist. Okay, Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, right? And this kind of art is high art. It's too high, in fact, for some people to appreciate, right? And Warhol kind of brought it down. Okay, using recognizable imagery, like Campbell soup can, which he claimed he drank for 20 years. Right? So this is the 32 Campbell soup cans, representing all the flavors you can find at that time. Now, anyone knows what was the first flavor? Okay, this is a trivia, right? What was the very first flavor, okay, by the Campbell Company? 1897, huh? 1897. Tomato, very good, tomato. Okay, when this work was first displayed, it was actually displayed in shelves, like those you see in the supermarket. Right? Now, we are not sure whether Warhol was celebrating consumerism or was he criticizing consumerism. Right? Because if you look at his images, he repeats them. He uses the strategy of repetition. Okay, and that repetition is to, is a reference to the kind of advertising that we are bombarded with, So advertising bombards us with, images. So he uses that kind of strategy for advertising. Right? So he tries to replicate what he sees in the consumer world. Even the mechanical reproduction of his work. Okay, later on he was to use silk screen, very mechanical production, right? Is to replicate the mass production that we see as well. Okay, so it's very interesting. I think this is my second last point, if I'm not mistaken, second last image. Okay, art being used to propagate political values for political purposes. Hey, let me tell you something. I mean, all politicians recognize this. Okay, if you are a skilled politician, you have to recognize this. You have to use art, okay, as a way to, convey your political beliefs and ideas. Right? And even today's politicians do that, right? They do recognize. But it's really in the countries with authoritarian regimes that really make use of art effectively and on a mass scale, okay, to propagate their political ideals. We think of Nazi Germany, okay, USSR, right, Russia, okay, and today North Korea, right. But even if you were to go back to World War I, the UK, Britain, right, Britain had a lot of this, propaganda posters. You know the "We Want You," right? Okay, I think there's one with Kirchner, right? Was it Kirchner, right? And then the other one with Kitchener, and the other one with Uncle Sam. Okay, but it's really in this so-called authoritarian regimes that really produce these posters on mass scale and circulate them. Okay? And we can see this most clearly in China. Okay, with especially under the Mao regime. Okay? So in 1966. Mao launched, anyone knows? The Cultural Revolution. Right? The Cultural Revolution was actually a disguise to purge his opponents from the CCP, okay, the Communist Party, and also to reassert his authority. Okay, but in the end, it was one of the most devastating, period, 10-year period. Yeah, it was estimated 1 billion people, that's conservative, 1 billion people lost their lives. Okay? And there were other devastation on other scales. I mean, thousands of artifacts were destroyed, books were destroyed, okay, because he was suspicious of intellectuals. Religious places like temples and churches were taken over and used for other purposes. Right? Thousands of people were publicly shamed, tortured, went to labor camps, things like that. Okay, but anyway, that's the historical bit of it. But the fact is, these propaganda posters were produced by the thousands, and they were produced by some of the best designers, right, at that time. And under Mao's time, only such works were allowed. So you're not allowed to paint any other things. Okay, it was all meant to kind of elevate him, to some deity, right? Okay, so you can see these posters, the one on the left, the red guard, he's holding a Mao's, book of quotations of Chairman Mao, right? And the red guards were feared. They were young, young people, right? Okay, they created fear in people. And then on the right, you can see, Mao as a deity, it's like he's surrounded by a halo, right? And he's worshipped by the people. Okay, and you can see there is the triumvirate, the peasant, the worker, the laborer. Okay, the triumvirate, okay, of the communist regime. Okay. But it's interesting. If you are interested in propaganda posters, there are many books written on this. Okay, and they are quite interesting to look at as well. Yeah. What the arts can do is, this is my last slide, is to remind us that it's possible to save the world. Art can shock us into action. Okay? Now the question is this: can you change the world through art? Okay? Can you change the world through art? Okay, some artists believe that they can change the world, but is that true? Is that only being too idealistic? Are they being too idealistic to think that they can change the world through what they do? Okay. Now, why do artists have this conviction? Right? This you meet some artists like, unfortunately, the artist who just passed away, our own artist himself, Lee Wen. I don't know whether you heard the news of Lee Wen, who just passed away. He's a performance artist. Right? He's a man with very strong conviction, right? And he believed that, through his art, right, he can help to make the world, a better place. Okay? Right? So some artists believe that the art. I mean, if they cannot change the world, then they can at least inspire us or shock us into action, into taking some action, right? Okay, this is my last slide, and it's a work by Vasan Sitikit. Okay, he's a Thai contemporary artist. And Vasan, if you have met him in person, he's extremely eccentric. Okay, I will call him a multidisciplinary artist. He paints, he performs, okay, he recites poetry. Okay? But he's someone who is also led by his conviction, right? So in his political ideals, he is what he call an anti-capitalist, right? He kind of hates capitalists. He's an anti-imperialist. It seems that he hates everything that's American, So if you look at his art, it's, the anti-American message is quite clear. Okay, so in his art, the anti-American message, anti-capitalist message, okay, are quite clear. And his art is very direct, very frank. It's no holds barred. Right? So he has one series where, he supports the yellow shirt. There's this yellow shirt and red shirt. Right? So when Thaksin was in power, wow, he was really making art to oppose Thaksin. Okay, and that whole series, they're actually more they're actually quite pornographic, right? Because they show Taksin engaging in sexual acts with prostitutes and all that, right? So it can be as frank as that, right? Art. Okay, so and this is what it says. As an artist, I use art as my weapon to crash the public, to change what I disagree with. Okay, right? And I don't believe in the democracy today, which is ruled by corporations and a greedy, idiot capitalist military. So he was very skeptical of, he wanted to expose corruption and bureaucracy. Okay, and this is my last slide, and very very direct work, okay, by Vasan Sitike. It shows it's made of plywood, and there's a metal frame, okay, and it shows figures being hung. Okay, and this is a reference to farmers, right, who have actually committed suicide in the mid-1990s when we had the Asian financial crisis. Okay, so there was the Asian financial crisis, right? A lot of farmers in Thailand itself committed suicide. Okay? And it's also because of capitalist exploitation, right? Technological innovation, all this drove them to suicide. Okay, because of bankruptcy and all that. And at the bottom, it actually uses rice husk. Okay, it's not only a reference to the staple food that the Thais eat, rice, but rice husk, Huask, the husk, with, it's a kind of reference to the bankruptcy and the poverty of the Thai people, or of the Thai farmers rather. Okay, so this work was first shown in 2011 at the Singapore Museum, right? Very graphic, okay, a very very frank, kind of depiction, okay, of farmers committing suicide. Right, I've come to the end, but before I kind of, maybe you have a couple of questions, I just want to advertise my program for those who are interested, right? I run this MA program in Asian Art Histories. You can go to the website to find out more about it, okay? It's with plural histories, right?